You ever just stop and think, what's my take on all this? Yeah, that's real.
There are two types of relationships: the relationship that we are introduced to and the relationship that we introduce ourselves to. The relationship that we are introduced to are in relations to the kind of people that we know involuntary, or we be in the same environment involuntarily. So for an example, our siblings, our parents are the relationships that we are introduced to, even the workplace. But then the relationships that we introduce ourselves to are those kind of personal relationships, like the ones that we create in workplace, like having a personal and direct relationship with someone you met in a workplace or at church or in your village. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lord Waran II, and welcome again to another banging episode. We are doing this thing one more time. This is Mighty Podcast. As I am your host, we continue with our previous topic, which is the Village Chronicles. What could the village do to you? Because what I am actually going to outline here, or I am going to deliver, is based in the context of village experiences. So in our previous episode, we talked a lot about how the village impacts our upbringing. So I would like to extend and accelerate this topic and talk about the relationships that we have in the villages. The most obvious relationship and the most common one, it is like the family structure, the relationships we have with our family or in our bloodline, like our mother, our siblings, and our cousins. They have a very much impact to the kind of relationships that we will introduce ourselves in life. So by saying so, I'd like to thank you for joining me, and as well as curious to understand what I will be delivering, because this is my take, good people. And if you have your own take, you are free to comment on this topic or to argue this matter. We can even extend it to another episode. It is up to you, since we are doing this together. So as I've said, thank you for joining me. And where do we begin today? Today we are going to look at the relationships, as I've said. So I wrote a post earlier on. I wrote a post earlier on about having a father who slaps you at least 5 times each and every day, and a mother who slaps you 4 times a day. And every day, of course, you are likely to assume that your mother loves you more than your father. And then you happen to meet someone who slaps you at least 3 times, and you are likely to assume that the person you just met loves you more than your parents. And then along the way, or along the journey of life, you meet someone who at least slaps you twice. You would assume the person, you have never met a person who loves you wholeheartedly like this. It's more like you have never met someone who loves you like that. And then you meet someone who slaps you once, and now you have the love of your life, believing that the other ones did not love you as much as the person who slaps you once loves you. Then it happens, if it happens in life, you meet someone who doesn't slap you at all. There is a plot twist here. Research shows that instead of assuming that the person who doesn't slap you at all loves you very much, you are likely to assume that the person who doesn't slap you at all doesn't love you. That is what you are likely to assume. This is something psychological, and I love to use it to actually break the grounds of today's episode using this example or sentiment. In this, we are able to trace psychological traits and what is being taught to us subconsciously. So there are a lot of things that we get to experience with the people that we live with as our parents or in the household, the kind of relationships that we have. If we are likely to have healthy relationships, it means we are likely to build healthier relationships outside our household. The very same way we will be able to build healthy relationships in our workplace or personal relationships in our workplace. So the thing is that what we see and grow and experience, it grows certain beliefs or and actually I would say attest to a certain knowledge which is being sold to you. Some of it is true, some of it is not true. It's just a belief that we hold strongly. The popular example here that I'm going to use is like a child who grew up watching or who grew up in like an abusive household where the father was abusive to the mother or the mother was abusive to the father. It is said that the child is likely to become abusive in life in general, and extensively so. This is something that is going to affect them even in their relationships with the people that they meet in life, from their love of their lives to friends. They will tend to be the most aggressive and abusive person simply because it is something they grew up to witness. So we do get a chance as growing up to actually choose what we want in life, and which it includes our own beliefs. There are certain things that we need to unlearn in order to learn new things. But the thing is that since we are talking about the village context, most of the things that we know about life and know in life is something that we have experienced before. We get the lesson through experience more than we do get the lesson from advices and stuff, which is something which plays a major role into who we become. Because some people turn out to be different from other, which is something more similar to what I've talked about in our previous episode, that we can have the same experience or challenge in life, but we might turn out to be different. But at the end of the day, there are most common things which we can find in a lot of people, which can be traced back into one single thing, which basically means it is something that can be addressed in order to at least fix or mend. I would say, I don't know the proper word to use in this context, but the most common thing or common challenge that we ever experience in the village, it is something that can be addressed and save our children. Here is the thing. We talked about abusive parents which are likely to have abusive kids. The kind of relationship we choose later in life as we grow will suffer from what we suffered in our previous relationships or where we come from. This is the relationship that we introduce ourselves. If we have never had a chance to learn and know about trust, it is likely that we are like untrustworthy, or something like that. If we did not know about transparency, loyalty, it is something that we will fail to practice out of the blue. So in other words, since in the village there are more dysfunctional families than functional families, in this sentiment, when we're talking about dysfunctional families, I'd love to mention in most households in the villages, they are like absent fathers or an absent father figure. So basically, we grow up without witnessing our parents being together. even if by any chance maybe we do get someone who will step in as a father figure, it's kind of hard based on the attitude that is ushered to us. It's rare to find someone who has stepped in and actually good coming out of their presence in that household. But not compared to when like there's no mother figure. And by the way, I'm failing to speak in my home language because we do have audiences from various kinds of the world who can only understand English, and I don't want to leave them behind. So basically I'm forced to use this language, as my support does not only come from our very own people, also coming from abroad, and shout out for that. So as I was saying, I even forget what I was talking about, but let us continue. Oh, I was talking about relationship. I forgot the relationship that we introduce ourselves to. 90% of relationships in the villages are like fucked up relationships. They are toxic relationship. There is so much toxicity. They are toxic people living with toxic people. I'm not sure if some people are aware of it or not, but it's happening simply because of what I'm telling or what I'm talking about, where we come from, what we know about relationships, what we know about love. This is the Village Chronicles, by the way. Toxic people, including people who does not understand transparency. They are eager to have something good, but they cannot maintain it. Because when we're talking about a healthy relationship, we're talking about a sum of responsibilities which are aimed to achieve one goal, spending your life with someone that you love and you can trust, someone that you believe you can have something big with them in life. So those are some of responsibilities which I've mentioned: transparency, loyalty, and all sorts that you know. It becomes hard to apply when they are only in theory in our life, because I've realized that most of us are very much aware of what we are talking about when we're talking about transparency in relationships. You are very much aware what is trust and what is reality, but we fail to practice, we fail to manifest those. Why? Because there are so much beliefs or so much knowledge associated, or say stigma around relationships and sorts, because of how we are raised and how our parents have taught us what love is. Because I can assure you, 90% of the families which does not have like a father figure, the mother is likely to teach the children the unimportance of a man in their lives. They equip their children, more especially women, and tell them that they can live without men. They can learn from them that now that they can now that they have witnessed them as single mother raising them, they can also not fail to be by themselves, which creates a space where they grow up prepared, knowing that they don't need a man in their lives, which is 50% true. But at the end of the day, no one will ever be happy alone. Even if you assume maybe you'll be alone, we don't know. We can talk about that when you are old and have never been with anyone, and tell us how was it. You can also go around and ask people who have been alone ever since, and you will hear how was it. Because love in the first place is designed to be shared. In most cases, we have to love in order to feel loved. It's not that we lack love, it's that we lack someone who will offer us love. We do have every love to offer someone, but we just don't have anyone who can offer it back. So basically, we need each other as men and women. But yet you find out that the dysfunctional families prepare their kids to be dysfunctional or to create dysfunctional families. There are not most people who can admit that they have failed and teach their children for a greater and better purposes and greater anticipations in life. They equip them with something they believe is the best weapon to live by, which is some sort of a belief that will only lead someone astray. Imagining growing up that you don't need a man or a woman in your life, yet at the end of the day you need children. You had this dream of having like this quite happy family where you travel the world, where you do everything for your kids. But what happens is that you are being sold a certain knowledge and a certain belief that you don't need the other part in your life, which causes you to misfunction and misfire when you are in a relationship. What kind of relationships we see in like the villages? Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing ghosts every day. We are seeing naked ghosts. You try to date this, you realize that no, man, if God did not fail, the parents failed. But as much as you know, God is not a fail, so the parents failed. And as much as that someone is suffering from the parents' failure, it means it's a generational suffering. Unless we address it, just like the very same way I'm trying to do now. Like the reason we are having like crappy relationships is because we have also experienced the crappy life, a crappy dysfunctional families, and a crappy experience, which has subconsciously or consciously taught us that love is crap and relationships are craps. You date someone who don't see the necessity of communicating with you simply because they believe that they are not doing something wrong, and you are not sure. They don't even give you the assurance. Like I'll just organize a day just to complain about the kind of relationships that we have. Good people, hey, I don't even know what to say. What is it that you have experienced in your relationship that you can actually tell is because of how someone was raised? Like, guys, lemon creamy 8 rand. Ma why? One reason. It's because I don't get enough at home. Even if I'm getting enough, I'm not getting what I'm expecting at home. Like for instance, most families can afford what they afford, but not all families can afford a KFC for every Friday or every weekend. So the gap is the reason. I heard someone saying, they raised the failures. Look, all them about whom ever we any KFC. Pasiba make a peace guru. Go moyo pandino pandamir. And yet, my pandalola wire or whatever. You like categorize them as relationships. I know this guy, he does a lot for me. At least when I go to see him, he gives me this kind of an amount of money. Blah 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 blah. But yet you saying you are not selling, which is like a clear definition of sale and trade, exchange of goods and services. Like what can be? Mara, as much as there is an exchange of goods and services, I give you money and you give me services or goods, it means it's a business. So one way or another, we are failing to admit, or we are at an error where something like this, they categorize it as like responsibilities. Then yet you ask yourself, if they didn't know you, who will take care of them? We are just here. And then there are those who they know and highly believe that love is a beautiful thing. They grew up witnessing it from their parents. Yet when they have to come and choose, there are these kind of affected people. Mind you, majority of the people here in the villages, as I've said, they are found in the most dysfunctional families. They get people who have like a certain mindset you don't understand, and then they fall for it. They fall for it. Good people. We are going through a lot in the villages. Me say in karatan matimbe makali in karata la ini mela. The relationship yana so la mala in next. We can do better, good people. Now I'm very tired. Let me see you on the next episode, and I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Why do you think these kind of relationships we have in the villages are mostly crap? That was my take on what I think, on why I think they are mostly crappy relationships. It's because of where we come from, which is the village chronicles. What a village can do to you. Good people, my name is Lord Warren. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with me up to now. I've decided to make each and every episode this short. I'll see you next week on the very same channel. Make sure you subscribe and like and refer to your friends. If you have your take, you can send it via inbox or comment in one of our posts. The Lazy Room Creators Hub on Facebook, Lord Warrant II on Facebook, Lord Warrant on TikTok, Lord Warrant on Instagram. That's me. That's our handles. That's how you can reach us. And then obviously this YouTube, on YouTube, is the Lazy Room Creators Hub. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you again when you see me. Me now, I'm out of here. I'm going to focus on why are we having crappy relationships. We will see what we talk about on our coming episode. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for being with me up to this time. I hope to see you when you see me.